What's up everybody? Welcome to the Beginner's Guide to Dungeons. That's right, after how many years of doing videos, we're doing a Beginner's Guide to Dungeons because every so often there's new players that come into the game, that start playing the game, maybe recommended by friends or see an advertisement or whatever, and they're like, okay, I'm new to Summoner's War, where do I start? And a lot of times they have questions, and then we basically, all of us in the community are like, oh, how do you not know that? Haven't you been playing for forever? And they're like, no, I haven't been playing forever. So this is a beginner's guide. This is a more updated, I guess, beginner's guide because different monsters have changed, different units have changed, different skills have changed, etc., etc. This is probably not a very relevant video for players that have been playing for a while because they're like, yeah, I already know this. And I know 900,000 people in the comment section are going to be like, just use twins on all of them. Yes, that's great if you have twins and you've been playing for forever and you've summoned twins. For many people, especially new players that are free to play, they do not have a whole ton of twins that have 6-star violet runes on everything, and they're like, maybe give me something that I can actually build, thank you very much. So this is for newer players, for more casual players, etc., that are struggling with trying to find a team to the dungeons. We're going to talk about the mechanics of the dungeons. This is just for Giants, Dragons, Necropolis. This is not for the Elemental Halls. This is not for Rift Beasts. This is not for R5. This is just for mechanics talking and different team ideas and concepts for the different Giants, Dragons, and Necropolis. Okay, so let's get it started. Okay. First off, we want to ask ourselves when we approach any dungeon, whether it's this or whether it's these or whether it's like Rift Beast, etc., how do we counter the mechanics, right? How do we counter the mechanics? Do we need certain skills to counter the mechanics, or how are they? Or do we need certain runes to counter the mechanics, etc., and then also, what is our win condition? So a lot of times, like, okay, maybe for the counter mechanics, we might need a slow on the boss, on the enemies. We might need immunity. We might need cleanse. We might need something like that. For our win conditions, like it varies based on what it is. For our win condition, what is our win condition? Are we going to win with continuous damage? Are we going to let the dots damage over time, DOT? Are we going to let them tick down on the boss and the boss eventually just die from that? Or are we trying to get a attack buff on our team? Like, are we going to use big damage dealing units and attack buffs and defense breaks and set ourselves up for doing as much damage as possible? So those are the things that we have to kind of ask ourselves when we're trying to approach any dungeon, not even just Dragons, Giants, Necropolis, Giants, Dragons, Necropolis, but any dungeon in the game or in any game really. So those are the two biggest questions I feel. Let's get started with Giants B10. Mechanics of Giants B10, setup and nuke. Okay, so the boss is going to basically, his one tower is going to attack buff himself, attack buff the giant, and then the other tower is going to defense break your team, and then he's going to take a turn and he's gonna swipe everyone and kill everyone, right? Another mechanic is counter when he's hit 7 times. So one of the ways to combat that is don't bring multi-hit units, right? It's if you have enough skills, if you weaken the boss, his counter really isn't going to do anything crazy, but a nice thing, or have your tanky units be the ones that multi-hit. Your support units and your DPS units maybe only do like big single target burst damage instead of multi-hit damage. So what are the counters? Okay, so we got to get that attack break off, the attack buff off, and we got to potentially get attack break on him, so he decreases his attack, and a glancing hit. Glancing hit will stop him from critting and killing everyone and destroying everything. Okay, so the counters to this, to the mechanics in Giants B10 are, for beginners anyway, attack break. Defense buff for your team is going to allow you to take less damage. So if they have the defense break and the defense buff on them, they basically negate each other. Shield is going to be nice. You don't need a shield, but both shield runes or monsters that will shield your team. Some monsters that shield your team are, for example, like Bastet has a shield that just absorbs a certain amount of damage. Asasis, or Casis, however you want to say it, the Wind Sylphid has a shield that does She also does damage over time as well, which people used to use in the beginning for Giants B10. So that can absorb damage. Immunity, which is going to stop your team from, if you have immunity, if your team is immune, with things like Fran and Lulu, the Light Fairy Queen, and the Water Howl, that's just going to prevent your team from taking any defense break in the first place. Cleanse, so things that cleanse are like Veramos. Things that cleanse are like again, Fran and Lulu, the Water Howl and the Light Fairy Queen. And block beneficial effects for the Giant as well is an option. You don't need that, but it's an option. But we also have, I didn't include these, but Glancing Hit is also a nice thing. But you want to basically, you want as much blue on your team as possible, all the buffs, and you want as much red debuffs on the Giant as possible. So if you see that your team doesn't have a lot of blue on them, just from a very visual beginner standpoint from Giants, if your team does not have a lot of blue on them and the Giant does not have a lot of red stuff on him, then you have to think, okay, what am I not doing right that maybe take the things in that are going to buff your team a lot and debuff the enemies a lot. And as the win condition, you can do dots, damage over time, or you can do defense and break and DPS. Eventually, you're going to want to go to defense, break, and DPS because it's just faster. But damage over time is a viable strategy for early game, and I know a lot of people will like to fuse Veramos as soon as possible. People like to do that. And he does damage over time with the first skill as well as the other freaks. But also so many other units do damage over time as well, but that's just an option for an early game win condition if you don't have the damage, the DPS from your runes. If you don't have the attack power and the crit rate and the crit damage to be able to kill with your with the runes that you have, the dots are a slower approach, but they are a valid approach for early game. Alright, so here is the first sample Giants B10 team. So let's talk about what it is and what it does. Okay, good. We're good to go. So we have mostly easy to obtain units. The Water Magic Knight is something you get early game, just the game gives it to you. Shannon the Wind Pixie is actually one of the best early game. Well, I mean, they're all these are good early game Giants B10 units, but that Water Magic Knight can also be a good farmer. I assume that most people probably know what a farmer is. The farmer is what you do scenario with as your one monster. If you've gone through the first few missions of the game, they're like, oh, okay, they tell you basically what it is. But she can farm things so that you level up your food units. Food units are things that, and by the way, don't feed anything that is not easy to obtain again. Like a lot of people feed in 4 stars, 5 stars. If you're early game, don't feed 4 stars, 5 stars. Don't feed light dark units. Let me just put a bullet point in that. Don't feed things that are not easy to get again. Giant bullet point there. Because everyone's got a story of like, oh, I fed this early game because people said it was food, and I realize now that I need it. Like, don't do that. If you can't get it easily again, don't use it as food. There's plenty of... The game will give you plenty of poop units, like the Rainbow Mons galore, and they'll give you a bunch of 3 stars. Don't feed your 4 stars just because you're lazy. Don't feed your 5 stars just because you're lazy. Please, please. That's what storage is for. If you're not going to use it right now, stick it in storage. Come back to it later. And I do that a lot. But anyway, let's talk about what these different units do. So Veramos has the HP leader skill, which by the way, leader skills, you know that they're active when they are yellow. If they're not showing up yellow, if they're showing up white, they're not active. So for example, like this is any global leader skills would work here, and any dungeon leader skills would work here as well. So Veramos is a global HP leader skill, so that'll work anywhere. So Veramos is doing both cleanse, and he's got a win condition because he's doing dots with his first skill. Bernard has both attack power attack power break and a defense break, and he's a support unit, so he'll also multiply the amount of turns that your team gets, and which is very important in a turn-based game. You want to make sure you multiply the amount of turns that your team gets. Lapis will do a defense break, which helps runs go faster because it helps you do more damage to the enemy. And then she'll also reduce the enemy's attack. She'll actually absorb the enemy's attack gauge, but she will also reduce it, stopping them from getting as many turns as they would have otherwise. So that's one of the reasons that she's such a good unit. Let's go back to here. Shannon is a great unit here because she provides two very important debuffs. She provides the Speed Break, the slow, which is going to stop the enemy from getting so many turns. Turn-based game, if you can get a larger turn advantage, more turns than the enemy. I mean, think about it in chess, right? Think about if you were going to play chess. If you have more turns than your opponent, you're just going to win. Even if you're not as good, you're just going to get more of an advantage on them overall. More turns to combo something 1-2, and then they don't have a chance to react to it. So the speed buff for your team and the speed break. The speed buff with Bernard, speed break with Shannon. Turn advantage is huge. Shannon also has an attack power buff, which is going to make your team do more damage output overall. There's several defense breakers. There's the Bernard, there's the Lapis, Water Magic Knight, and then there's the Bella, which Bella's a secret dungeon. So all these units are fairly easy to obtain. Bella's just a light secret dungeon. She's just going to be good for so much that why not build a Bella? I mean, I think she was one of those units that early game I was like, I don't want to build her. I'll build everything else. And then eventually I was like, I just got to build her, don't I? Or no, maybe she might have been something that I used early game. I don't know. Anyway, Bella's just a great unit. But Shannon also has a defense buff, which stops the giant from doing so much damage when he actually hits you. So your team should have a defense buff, and no defense breaks with Veramos getting so many turns. His passive, every time he gets a turn, his passive activates, and it'll cleanse off the defense breaks, and that's super Gucci for you. Bella will defense break, which we talked about before. She'll also strip off the Giant's attack buff, and Shannon will do a glancing hit as well. So you have so many debuffs. You have defense for the boss. You have defense break. You have attack break. You have glancing hit. You have slow, and then he will have his stuff stripped off by Bella every so often as well. So and then you're limiting the team with Lapis and Shannon, and you're multiplying the turns that you get with Bernard and with Bella. Every time she heals, she gets more turns. So I mean, overall, it's just providing a lot of turn advantage, a lot of buffs for your team, a lot of debuffs for the enemy. Okay, so here's another team. This is my free-to-win account. This is an account that I basically started. I only use 2 and 3 star monsters on. Let's get it started. But I only use 2 and 3 star monsters on this. It has a decently fast, easy to obtain team. So again, we're using Shannon and we're using Bella, very staple units. For the attack power, but for all the buffs and the debuffs, we already talked about that. For our DPS units, now this is a little bit more DPS heavy. We don't have anything way to cleanse the defense break so that the giant puts on us or that the tower puts on us. So we're just relying on the fact that Shannon has a defense buff, which should keep the team alive. We do have 2 big DPS units though. We have Ardella, the Wind Magical Archer, and we have the Copper, which is the Wind Living Armor, and they're going to do big damage. Ardella, first off, needs an attack power buff to do her big damage, because she does damage both on her attack power and on her speed. Right? So she should do like 27,000 damage. That's not that bad. A speed buff would also help her if she wants to do her maximum damage, but this should be fine. Also, Copper will do damage based on his defense. So as soon as he does, and he'll do a slow too. Like a lot of things here have slows. Shannon has a slow. The also light cowgirl is really nice. She reduces the enemy's attack gauge. She has a slow, or she'll give them a slow. She'll strip them. It's a second stripper. So Bella has a strip on the skill 2, and the light cowgirl has a strip on skill 2 as well. So we got lots and lots of slows and a decent amount of strips. And we got defense breaks, but this is just going to do more damage faster, and it's also pretty reliable, and it is all 3-star units. So I mean, you have to first off get the light magical archer secret dungeon. I mean, not light, the light cowgirl secret dungeon, and then you have to get the Bella secret dungeon. But this should be wonderful. There's also, I'm going to build a second, this is not even my main account, this is just a totally different account that I have that has never spent any money on. And never built, even if I get 4 or 5 stars, I don't even build it on this account anyway. So, It's a little faster with that than the first team because it has 2 DPS sources. Now, a way to even make this faster is to take her out altogether and put a second copper, so 2 of these. So that would be a way to make it faster overall. We have the attack power, leader skill is even stronger, and all our DPS units are attack power anyway. So as long as we have, and we should be fine. We have enough defense breaks here. Copper has a defense break on skill 2 as well. It's less buffs and debuffs, less support heavy, but 2 more DPS units. So you don't even need to do Varamos. Bernard I would definitely recommend to build. I'm not saying don't build Bernard. But if you want to start farming it instead of, like, before you even fuse Varamos, you're like, okay, fusing Varamos is great, but I want to start farming it sooner rather than later. You can do it with just easy to obtain 3-star units. So you don't need Nat 5s to do any specific content. You just need to make sure you have the right stats. Not even the right, well, yeah, the right stats, but you need to make sure you have the right skills. Your units serve the right purpose. Your units each have a specific role in the team. So she's got just garbage runes. She's got like nothing exciting at all. You could stick this. Don't even rune yours like this, right? She just has whatever because it's just the second account, or actually it's a 6th account. She's got speed, defense, HP. Look at this. This is just 5-star runes, so we're able to do it just fine. She's got 5-star runes. I like having her fast though. She's not even 6-star. She's just 5-star. She's just a support unit, but I like having her fast. I wanted her just to be fast and tanky to have. I want her to have more accuracy. I didn't realize there was 0% accuracy on here, but I wanted her to have more accuracy. And then the Despair is just nice to, if you're going to use her in TOA, which you can use her in TOA. If you're going to use her in, when you hit the waves can be stunned. The boss can't be stunned, the towers can't be stunned. But the waves of units, because she's got her AoE skill too, so the waves of units, you don't need to have her on Despair, but it just helps against the waves of units. Then we have Bella. Bella just needs to be fast. Bella doesn't need, she's not even on any actual finished sets, apparently. But she is, she's just on Swift, and it's good enough. She just needs to be fast enough to get enough turns to keep stripping and keep healing whenever she needs to be healing. I think I thought a light burned out or something made a weird sound. One of the things I see when people go wrong with Bella is that she's not fast enough. Same with Shannon, is that people don't have enough speed on some of these units. So I like to have my things fast, and they work just fine. She's got a little bit better runes, because I think these are I mean, they're from Necropolis, but oh, she's not max skilled. I didn't even realize that. But it should be fine. With just like, if you're gonna use her, Swift Blade attack or damage attack works just fine. Make sure you have enough crit rate though. Or Fatal speed or damage attack works just fine too. And then the Copper is a little slow. He's a little on the slow side, but he's even has like not even finished sets. It's just 2 random Swift runes. He's on Will for PvP, so I could do PvP stuff with him. But just as long as he's defense, crit damage, defense is just going to help him do the most damage output overall. So now we'll go look at a faster team. Alright, so now we're going to build a speed team. So we're going to need attack buff and defense break. Galleon is a great way to attack buff and defense break both at the same time. My Galleon's a little bit weird, but he actually has several Galleons. One of the biggest things for Galleon is make sure he's fast, make sure he has good accuracy. You don't need to rune him like this at all. Next, we need AoE DPS. We need AoE damage. A lot of people like to do these Lucians. Where's Lucian? Lucian is somewhere. Lucian, I might have all my Lucians in storage actually. I still use them. They're not in storage because they're unused. They're just in storage because I have so many units built. This Lucian should do fine. This Lucian probably won't work. This Lucian should do fine too. Okay, so these are just 2 AoE DPS units that clear waves fast. You want to clear the waves fast, they ignore defense, so they'll just poop out a whole bunch of damage. So that's going to be great. Now we need to think about how we're going to kill the mid-boss and the giant. We're not going to use dots. We're not going to use damage over time. So we need to use big burst damage. Now, one of the nice things about, one of the things we can think about is using something that's going to add a little bit of reliability to it. So we could use just big damage, and I'm sure with my rune quality it'll be just fine, because this is we're back to my main now. We're back to my main account now. So I'm sure with my rune quality at this stage of the game it should be fine. But let's say we didn't have maybe my rune quality at this stage of the game. Let's say maybe we want to do, and I love to use these, maybe we want to make sure that the giant doesn't get any turns, right? So let's think about, we could just go all DPS. We could use something like Yaku. Yaku's fairly easy to get, but let's say we want to do some attack gauge reduction to stop the giant from getting turns, aside from his counterattack, right? We could use things like, where is she? Oh, you know what? This guy's another great unit, because this guy will actually amplify. He's a support. This is what we want to do. We want to do support DPS, and we want to do big burst damage, because right now we have AoEs, right? We have no big burst damage for the boss level. So we could still do Ardella again. I think my Ardella is ruined here. Yeah, she's not good. I think the Ardella in the other account was actually better, because I don't ever use the Ardella here. But we could but we could use her. We could also use, I don't see other stuff that I necessarily. We could use this, like I said, the Imp Champion already. But I want to use something that reduces the. I'm trying to find her, but I can't seem to find her. I don't know if she's out here. But I want to use big burst damage. Where is she? Wonderful, wonderful. So one of the reasons, also you can use Orang. This Orang that I have is just for. You could also use Argon, actually. My Argon is not ruined right now, but you can use Argon. But Orang is nice because she has these also bring other things to the table, right? So Orang is this Orang is basically just for the Water Rift Beast right now with these runes. Also, they're not maxed, which is genius, fantastic. But Orang will do this decreases attack speed, attack power, defense, and then she also has a glancing hit debuff on the first skill. So she will just do she needs way more speed for Giants B10. But she's nice because she will do 4 different debuffs. Plus she's got an attack power leader skill for just wind. But all our DPS is wind anyway, so it's perfectly fine. She's just too slow to work in this situation. But with the amount of debuffs that she has, she would absolutely work. If you re-runed her to be fast enough. So we can do that. We can also do Bernard, which is just going to give us more turns overall. And another secondary defense breaker. But if we don't want to use Bernard, we want to do just big DPS overall. So we'll do that, and we'll do like we could just 5 Lucian it. We really could just do 5 Lucian. But we have this girl. She's going to be a secondary source of defense break here. She's going to decrease the enemy's attack gauge here. And then she's going to be able to do removing beneficial effect. Sometimes she does, sometimes she doesn't with this beneficial effect removal. But she does big burst damage to the mid-boss and the end-boss, in addition to a secondary source of defense break just in case Galleon misses. Galleon shouldn't miss much, but with these 2 units, her and Galleon, we have a lot of defense breaks. We have a lot of attack gauge reductions. This guy's kind of nice too. He's a support DPS, so he can do decent damage. And he also does continuous damage, which is another win condition that we can use. Brand is like a defense break. Both of these things multiply the amount of damage that you do. The interesting thing is, when you use Lucian, you can use a brand with Lucian to amplify the damage, whereas if you use Lucian with a defense break doesn't even do anything with his 3rd skill, because Lucian's already going to ignore the defense to begin with. And this is also another speed buff, which is nice, just amplifies the amount of turns you get. It's kind of like Shannon. No, it's not. It's. I was gonna say it's kind of like Shannon. I did say that. It's not kind of like Shannon. It's kind of like Bernard, but also has Bernard with Shannon because it's got a speed buff and it's got the attack power buff. So the things that we're missing from here is, number 1, it has no heals. It has no way of cleansing. It has no defense buff. So we need to win before the giant gets turns. So as long as you have enough damage output to win before the giant gets turns, if the giant starts getting turns, we're gonna wipe. So should be. It's a little actually slow. I mean, it's fast, but it's slower than it could be using all this stuff. So we're just pooping out damage regardless. So we have lots of buffs. We have we didn't get any defense breaks there actually. We didn't get any. This is pretty typical for this mid boss though. He doesn't take any buffs, any debuffs, ever. I don't know why, but he's got like 4 billion resistance. So, lots of damage, lots of damage, lots of damage. You could do Despair with him. You could do Swifted with him. There's so many different ways to ruin Hraesvelg. You just want to make sure that he's fast. That's one of the things. You want to make sure he's fast because he's a support DPS. So, Galleon should be fast because Galleon's a team buffer and a debuffer. And Hraesvelg should be fast because Hraesvelg needs to move before your Lucians and everything else. So it's even on the slow. Even this was a slow run, but it's still a minute. So let's see another run of the same exact team. This is gonna be a long. I'm realizing it now. This is gonna be a long video, especially when you don't do the right skills, team. Good job. Good job. But we should see. We'll basically just see the same thing again. There we go. There we go. As long as one of these Lucians gets his amputation magic off, it should be fine. On each wave. That's what we're really hoping for. We're hoping for Lucian to just amputation magic each wave of little minions. And we didn't get any amputation magics. But that's what we're hoping for. This way we could clear the waves fast and then go to the mid-boss and the boss stage as soon as possible. Hey, there we go. These aren't speed-tuned correctly, though. These, this Wind Barbaric King should be going before these Lucians. But these Lucians are, I don't really use the Wind BK in Giants. On this account, you should, like, he's a great unit to use in Giants. But he's, my Lucians are speed-tuned to go for Arena. And that's why they're just so fast. They're faster than he is. But he should be faster. He should be faster. So he needs to be like 20 speed faster or something like that. We could check. How fast are they? They're 216. So he should be... He's at 213. So he needs to be like 10 speed faster. Should be fine. So right, let's get on to Dragons. On to Dragons B10. What are our questions to ask? Let's just recap this. How do we counter mechanics? And what is our win condition? So let's see what the mechanics of Dragons B10 are. This is not all the mechanics of Dragons B10. This is just the most important ones. Mechanics are damage over time to your team. Then as soon as he gets a turn, he does burst damage that amplifies based on the amount of damage over time, continuous damage, dots, etc., that you have on your team. Mechanics, he also has the right tower, which cleanses and gives him immunity. So you can't like block beneficial effects to block that immunity because it will cleanse. And then, which is important, it will cleanse and then do the immunity. So how do we counter that? We can cleanse our own team, cleanse the dots, continuous damage of our team, so that we don't take the damage from the dots. We don't take the additional multiplier of the burst damage that does extra damage based on the dots. So we can do that. We can immunity so we don't get the dots in the first place. We can strip the dragon's immunity, which we kind of need to. We either need to burst them down, like which you need either great runes, end game, great runes, and at least somewhat upgraded towers to do it before he even gets the immunity. So we can do that, or we need to strip the dragon's immunity consistently. So we need at least one stripper, or we need something that strips skill 1. And then we have turn gauge manipulation, which we saw in Giants. We saw the Shannon with the speed break on the enemies, and then we saw the Bernard with the speed buff of ourselves. So we want to do something similar. We can't use those wind units because it is fire dungeon, and fire has element advantage. So we can't do that. But we can do something similar with different units that help manipulate the turn gauges as well themselves as well. Also, a defense buff helps. It is not necessary though, because there's no defense break that the dragon is doing to you. So we basically just want to strip the dragon's immunity consistently and get a lot. In my opinion, these are the things that I like the most: is consistently stripping the dragon's immunity and consistently manipulating the turn gauge so they get as little turns as possible and you get as many turns as possible. The win condition strip, defense break, and DPS. You can't really do the damage over time unless you go for the right tower first. That's a good strategy to do in the beginning. And you can do the right tower first, and you can do the continuous damage to the right tower, and then as soon as that's done, your team won't, or the dragon won't get any immunity anymore, so you don't really have to worry about that. But the best and most realistic scenario is you should be doing Dragons B10 after you farmed decent enough runes from Giants B10 for quite a while first, and then go move on to Dragons B10. You shouldn't be thinking like, oh, it's the first week of the game, I should be able to tackle Dragons B10. Like, no, it'll take you a while to build up a team to do it, and also have decent enough runes to for that team. So don't think that you have to do Dragons B10 like, oh, I beat Giants, now I have to go do Dragons. No, beat Giants first, and then farm Giants for quite a while, and then worry about Dragons. So it's better that you just even speed up your Giants team first before worrying too much about Dragons next. So anyway, that's the basic mechanics of Dragons B10. Let's see some sample teams. So for Dragons B10, there's kind of a holy trifecta of units that should make up the core of your at least beginner Dragons B10 team. So we talked about turn manipulation, and we talked about cleanse. The first two units. Turn manipulation, with his passive, he increases the attack gauge of everyone, giving your team just more turns in general. And then we have Veramos, which is, and also both of these units are fusion, so they're easy to obtain for everyone. And if you are trying to tackle Dragons B10, then we would assume that you are at the level where you can farm some of the other, like the element halls, and you have a farmer that can do scenario and level things up that way, so you should have no issue. If you're like, I can't get to the point when I'm fusing stuff, then you're trying to tackle Dragons B10 too early, right? So there should be no issue with you fusing things if you're trying to tackle Dragons B10. At least fuse one Nat 5. I mean, you can fuse Sigmaris too. Sigmaris is not a bad unit for either Giants or Dragons. Sigmaris is not bad, but these units should be easy to obtain at the point. If you can't obtain them easily, then you're not ready for Dragons yet. So that's another good indication. Number 3 is we will take a where is she or he? I don't know. I don't look at Inugami genders in 2019. I don't know what year it is. Anyway, so this is the holy trifecta. So this is heals, this is strips, this is turn gauge manipulation, and this is consistent cleanse of the dots. Also, Veramos is the added benefit of, I mean, we still don't have any DPS yet. We still have other things that we need to take in, but this should be a good start at least first. We'll take in, now there's so many different units that you could take in here. You can take, for example, you could take this one in, which is not bad. You could take this actually instead of Veramos, which I'll show you a team that I use on my, on my free-to-play account. That only uses 3 stars, if you would like. But those are some added options. Now this one, if we use this one and we use another DPS, this should go fairly fast. I mean, faster than it could go. You can actually also use Konamiya instead. You could use Lulu instead. You could use a lot of things that cleanse. You don't have to use Veramos, but you could use a lot of things that cleanse instead of Veramos. You can actually, she got buffed, there's weird runes on her. She was ruined for just World Boss, so she's just got whatever on her right now. But her stats actually aren't that bad. But this, for having garbage runes on her, for having like nonsense runes on her, this is not how she should be. Speed HP or speed defense HP is how you should have her ruined with Violent. Violent Will, Violent Focus, Violent Endure. Actually, no, not Focus. Violent Will, Violent Endure. Violent, what else are good? Revenge is not bad. Shield's not bad. I mean, there's a lot of things, but anyway, she should be speed HP defense or speed HP or something like that. Speed HP makes the most sense because she does her, this is based on her HP. So anyway, she could be good with her new passive because she was just changed at the time that I'm recording this. She's actually pretty decent for Dragons B10. Something to think about. This girl is also good because she will increase the, she doesn't need to be even on Despair, Revenge, or anything like that. But we could use this. We could use so many different things for our, let's just start taking things in. Let's start taking things in. We'll use her. And we'll use, here's another one. Where are you? This is another easy to obtain unit that I really like to use here. He should be runed. He should have perfectly good runes. There we go. Okay, so we have attack gauge manipulation with Vertiheal. We have attack gauge manipulation with Lapis. We have the cleanse with Veramos. We have the strip and defense break with Bella. And then we have the attack gauge manipulation with Spectra. There's a lot of stuff that does. Basically, 3 of these, Vertiheal, Lapis, and Spectra, all do attack gauge manipulation. And I'm kind of trying to not show too much the runes on here because I don't want you guys to, like... Some of my things are runed very weird. But I don't want you guys to get hung up about specific rune sets that need to be on something. They should be fast, and the units that have debuffs, that will debuff the enemies, should have at least a decent amount of accuracy, right? Like, at least a few dozen accuracy on there. They don't need to be 100% accuracy, especially in dungeons, because 100% accuracy isn't really going to make a difference between 100% and 50% half the time. So you don't need to go too crazy with the accuracy, but speed is very important. Also, turn order is important as well. So you want to make sure for this team, or for any team that you use Vertiheal with, generally speaking, it's preferable that he moves last on the team, right? So if you look at the attack gauge, he's moving last. Every time a new wave comes on, he's the last one to move, because he's going to get the most benefit out of his turn gauge manipulation when he moves last. So it should be just fine. Look at this. We reduce the attack gauge of the tower. You might start having, for you guys watching this, you might not be able to consistently have the immunity not come on, because we might actually be able to do this without the immunity coming on too much. But you guys might have the immunity come on more, but that could just be the rune quality difference. So we got the immunity first for the first time. We didn't get a seize. Ooh, that's sad. That's sad, man. But yeah, he shouldn't put the immunity on anymore. So that should be the only time that right tower even gets to move, because we have so much turn manipulation. Look at this. The dragon's really not moving too much. So didn't do bad. Didn't do bad. We'll use this holy trifecta. We'll use a few different teams. 2 minutes and 15 seconds is not a bad starter team. Let's use some different stuff. Okay, let's say we don't want to build that. Let's say we don't want to use that. We can use Sigmaris. Actually, the Sigmaris does have runes. Okay, that's good when we're doing a video and things that we're trying to use have runes. And we'll use Megan. There's so many different things that you could use here, but I know a lot of people like to use this team, so we'll show this team in action and we'll see what it can do. We actually can do, I mean, depending on how you rune these things, like we saw Lapis was on Despair Revenge, which is not, she's not going to do a lot of damage that way, but she can do, and she should be doing a lot of damage if you have her as your farmer, like for example, Fatal, Speed Crit Damage Attack, or Swift Attack Crit Damage Attack. Both going to be ways to get her with a decent enough speed to move a decent amount of times, while also doing decent enough damage. So like Swift Blade is good beginner set for like attack or damage attack, and then make sure you get like speed, attack, crit rate, crit damage, and accuracy subs. Or you can go Fatal Rage, Fatal Rage, really, Fatal Blade, speed, crit damage attack with again speed, crit rate, crit damage, and accuracy subs. Lapis does need accuracy as well, so you could go other sets too. But depending on where you're going to use some of these units, certain things could be better than others. Like for example, Lapis for dungeons doesn't need to be Despair. Really doesn't do. I mean, aside from the waves, she only needs to be. She just needs to be fast enough, have good enough stats, just overall. So this team, we don't have as much turn gauge manipulation, so we might actually see, like, we don't have any slows on the right tower. We do have a decent amount of damage from the Sigmaris coming in. So we're able to take it out that way, but he was close to getting immunity a second time. So there's another team that a lot of people like to use though. We have the defense buff here. We have 2 strips, so it's actually a little bit faster of a team. One of the reasons it's I don't want to keep it. Should I keep this? I don't want to keep this. Maybe we'll keep it. I don't know. Yeah, let's do the gift box. So let's that's another team that we could use here. Now a good team to when you're preparing to go into speed running things, we can still keep the Vertiheel here. We can now bring Galleon in, as we saw Galleon before. Few interesting funsies units that a lot of people like to use, especially me, or not especially me, but in addition to me, that we can use are these. These are support DPS. They say DPS units. They say attack unit. Well, they say attack units, but they're support units as well. Because this performs a fierce cooperative attack with 2 fellow allies. This is going to bring everyone's, so like Vertiheel's passive will activate, Galleon's first skill will get another chance to defense break and reduce the cooldowns of skills as well. So, really nice there. And then we can go from there, we can see like, okay, what are some of the other units? We can use a Lapis here, we can use Sigmaris, so we could do that. We could use a 3rd Tark even. So, we're just doing big burst damage as fast as possible. Now, this starts to get a little sketchy when the dragon gets immunity on him. Then we have no defense break, then we're having some issues. But this is just pooping out so much damage that it doesn't even matter. A lot of people will like to do the twins endgame too. I'll show you guys in a second. Nat 2s. Also, this guy is great here because he'll strip things. This guy is great here because he'll strip things. Just units that will strip things and reduce attack gauge. I mean, this guy is just wonderful here. So even if we do get, and again, we could use, but these are, like, he's at least a DPS unit. He's at least a DPS unit. So these are damage dealing units. This is not a beginners team right here. This is just like what you eventually want to go to. She can be used in both a beginner team and an endgame team, just like Vertiheel can, just by changing the runes up on her. Since she's a support DPS unit, she's a support damage dealer that has attack gauge manipulation skills. She's gonna be great to just switch up the runes, give her more damage instead of maybe more sustain, and she will be able to do faster runs just like she did with the slower, more stable runs. A lot of people like to do the twins late game here. I'm not gonna use the twins. But we'll do, let's say, we can even use him here too. So let's for example do this. So really the only unit that you really need to have for here is Galleon. That is a non-easily attainable unit. So most of these are easy to obtain, aside from Galleon, who's just kind of necessary to multiply the damage quickly. So there's other things that you can kind of use instead of Galleon. Shane is a great option, but some of them that just defense break kind of get sketchy. This should be fairly fast. This should be about probably 50-second run. And it should be fairly reliable too, because Spectre will limit the attack gauge. It's just, there's so much attack gauge manipulation while also being so much DPS. So Special Assault, this should be Group Hunt, teamed up with Spectre. Spectre's got skill 3 again, Backlash. So that speed break and the attack gauge reduction on that right tower is just going to make this way more reliable. And we've got another defense break, which is important. It's important to land those defense breaks. So, for example, this Galleon would need to be skilled up. It's very important to skill up Galleon. Galleon is more important to skill up since you're using him so much throughout the game. If you have, okay, so a minute 5 seconds. Still, for being a mostly attainable team, it's pretty good. The only thing you really need is as long as you have a Galleon. If you don't have a Galleon, if you happen to have a Shayna, and a lot of people are using this, I'll show you guys. He's on a speed per damage build. Speed per damage HP. Actually, this works in TOA hard as well. It might be hard to get all the stats on him, but if you don't have those, early game, you can just run speed HP. You can even run speed crit rate HP. Just get enough stats on him. The crit rate helps with this one. This does a lot of damage, especially in TOA, it does a lot of damage too. But you just want him to be fast, and you want him... Sometimes, if he's squishy, you might think, okay, I need to maybe play it by ear. If he needs more HP, if he's dying too much, then he might need more HP. But if you can afford to get enough HP on him while also having crit damage on slot 4, then that could really help you. But he should be easy to skill up, especially if you're farming to more north. He should be very easy to skill up. These guys, you can run them several different... This is actually, I think he is speed tuned specifically without... I couldn't max this rune actually, so I think it's kind of a doo-doo rune, considering it's a 5-star and it's not maxed. But it's actually, I think he was speed tuned to make sure he couldn't get any faster. But you can either go speed crit damage attack for him, or on fatal, or rage, speed crit damage attack, or you can go swift attack crit damage attack. And a lot of these units, a lot of these DPS units, like I was saying, Lapis could be swift attack crit damage attack or fatal speed crit damage attack. As long as, like, if you get the same stats on him either way, like, this guy's swift, the other one's fatal, they both have plus 84 speed. Look at this. Fatal plus 84 speed, swift plus 84 speed, 1424 attack power, and what does he have here? 1385 attack power. Very similar, two totally different rune sets, but the stats are almost identical. So it really depends on what the runes look like. Instead of saying, this needs to be blah 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 blah, it really depends, like, what are the stats on the runes is the most important part. You could do all crazy broken sets and have good stats on it and it work. I don't like to use broken sets too much, but I'm just saying, if they have the right stats, a lot of times it can work wonderfully. So a lot of another late game kind of thing for it is, like, a lot of people like to do... I don't think mine is speed tuned correctly, so... Where's Shayna? But I know some people like to do... Shayna. And then we have... Talia. Okay, so this should be good. Some people actually also like to do this and then Galleon to make it even safer. Like that. But... late game people like to do. This is not speed tuned correctly though, and I have no idea what's even on Kali right now. But I don't think she's weird stuff. This is not fast enough. But yeah, something like this also works. Like, we could just see it anyway. We'll just see it to see it. But this is not going to be as fast and efficient. But I consider Shayna to be, because we can't do any dungeon teams. This is like a late game thing though. This is late game. Don't think about this for like early game. Like, you also need a certain amount of rune quality to, and I know I showed like some of the worst runes that I have on my account for the level that I am at. I'm just saying, for the level that I am at, some of these things have not the greatest runes considering where they should be, but a lot of these things are not going to work for people early game. Even if they have the right units, you need to have enough DPS, enough damage output on some of these units to be able to work effectively. The twins are just so good because they just attack. There's just so much happening at the same time. So, yeah, they just team up with each other and so many skills at once. For the same reason that the Tark does really well. So that's another good team people like to use late game. And I'll show you the runes on some of these twins. She's fast on purpose. Not skilled up though. Speed crit damage attack. And then she is on, what is she on? Oh, actually this is bad. You don't want her to be on speed crit damage. I would love to get like 50 speed on her at least with attack crit damage attack. I don't know why she's on speed crit damage attack. Maybe just because I couldn't get the speed on her the other way. But she will do way more damage on attack or damage attack, actually. And that's what she should be on. So this is just... I think I just ruined these when I got them and I just never changed them because they just seem to work just fine. So, those are the not being changed twins. Actually, I think Shayna I use though. Shayna I use for arena offense sometimes, which I really should skill up. But those are, the twins just... It's just easy to crap out wins with the twins. But not everyone has the twins, and even if you have the twins, you still want good stats on them, so... Okay, so here is again my free-to-win account, the account that I only build 2 and 3 star monsters on, that I don't spend any money on. There's just like the easiest things to obtain. We do dungeons with those. This is actually a 4-minute team. It's around 3:30 to 4 minutes. No one really wants to see a 3:30 to 4-minute team, but this is a team that can work with just 3 stars if you absolutely don't have. You really just want to just build Veramos and Vertiheel at the very least, right? But this team does it at 4 minutes. This is what we have here. Just speed HP. Actually, her heal is based on her attack power, so you do want more attack than this on her. But that's for her. Speed HP accuracy is... Oh, he doesn't even have his first skill skilled up. I think this is just the damage that this upgrades to. We have speed defense. Well, we saw this before, but this is my free-to-play account. Speed HP with Swift. I mean, you want a Violent on him, but eventually, but these are just the stats that can do it. Speed, crit rate, HP. So I went with crit rate. I couldn't get enough stats overall while having him crit damage. And this is also not a bad for a crit rate rune, right? Because you don't really need crit rate runes for too much, but yeah, that's not bad. This is actually I'm sure we could make this better at this point. But anyway, this is just to show people this is a Dragons B10 team with only 3 stars in it. It's got it's got cleanse and attack power buff. That's just for the cleanse though. This is just for the cleanse, just because to make it reliable. It's just super reliable, super safe. It's got a few strips. It's got the Shylock first skill strips. Attack gauge reduction, attack gauge reduction, another strip. So it's very slow. The only DPS unit is the Fire Griffin. So it's not doing a whole ton of damage. It's doing very little damage, but it is just super duper safe, and it is 3 stars only. So I know it's very exciting. With better rune quality, we'd be able to do some other fun toys here. But this is what we have for right now with this account. Again, just with 3 stars. And last but not least, finally we are on to Necropolis. Again, question to ask ourselves: how do we counter the mechanics, and what is our win condition? Okay, so let's take a look at Necropolis B10 mechanics. Number 1, shield for 7 hits. I know you noticed this one. So shield for 7 hits counter is units with multi-hit skills, especially the first skill. Some people recommend things that are just multi-hit third skills, which can work, but with just multi-hit third skills, you kind of have to have enough other multi-hits with the rest of the skills that it kind of makes up for it. It's best to have multiple things that hit multiple times. Another one is like a few very good units here are the Cowgirls, because they all have multi-hit skills. The Liches, which all have multi-hit skills. Even a couple of the Elven Rangers are really good here. The Rakshasas have multi-hit skills. Some multi-hit skills. Less, though. Less. Rakshasas have generally less. The Dark Rakshasa is great, though. But some of the Rakshasas have multi-hit skills. Things like that. The Twins, since they all multi-hit because they all attack together anyway, are great. But they're more of late game, end game kind of thing. Second mechanic. The mechanics, too. There's other mechanics than these in here, but these are just the most important main ones. Mechanic speed capped and attack bar increase nullified. So remember that Vertiheel that we were using? Remember that Bernard that we were using that was so great for the giants and dragons? Well, those don't work now. So we have to think of a different way to do things because the speed is capped. I think the speed is capped somewhere between 120 and 130. Just for the boss, though. Just for the boss stage. Not for all of Necropolis. So if you have more than that, it still is in effect for the rest of it, but just the boss stage is speed capped. So Vertiheel's basically, aside from the fact that he multi-hits, but he's just 2 hits and 2 hits, and what are you gonna, like, you need more than just the 2 hits with nothing else going for it. So the counter to that is speed break, is multi-hits, especially multi-hits with speed break on skill 1 are golden in Necropolis. Like, again, I said the Cowgirls and I said the Liches. and I said even the Rakshasas, those are units that have multi-hits and speed breaks. So those are the best, like, top tier units in Necropolis because they multi-hit and they speed break. So you still get your turn advantage, but you just get it a different way. You get it by speed breaking the boss, the Lich King, and not by increasing your turn gauge. So you just, and it's not as much because of that, but it still works there as well. You just have to do it differently. Another mechanic is damage increases over time with Exploit Soul, so you got to think about it. Counter is kill someone quickly. There is no slow team for Necro. Slow safe team is a dead team. But this is the third dungeon that you should be. This is the third in the series of rune farming dungeons. You should be going to Necropolis after you farm Dragons B10 a lot. So farm Giants, build a Giants team, farm Giants a lot, then build a Dragons team, then farm Dragons a lot, then build a Necropolis team. Don't try to like do, I mean, on one of my alts, I did Necropolis second because I just happened to have really good Necropolis units. Even though they weren't ruined like the best way for Necropolis, they still work because they were just such good units. So, I mean, in certain situations that could be the case, but generally speaking, Giants first, Dragons second, Necropolis third, and farm a bunch of the dungeon that you built the team for before you move on to the next one. So the mechanics are, and I mean a bunch. I don't mean like 200 times. 200. Well, I farmed this 200 runs. I mean like no, like a few thousand times, like a couple thousand times at least, before you move. Yes, that's right. I said that before you move on to the next. You're like, oh, wait, a couple of thousand. What? Are you kidding? Seriously. On a serious farm day for my main, I will farm Giants 500 times in a day, which seems crazy to someone maybe new to the game, but actually that's on a serious farm day. I mean, it takes longer to farm Necropolis or, for example, R5 or things like that than Giants, but Giants you can get a lot done, and you farm basically from the time that you wake up to the time that you go to sleep. Runs between 30 to 45 seconds. And it's possible to farm 500 times in a day, but on a good farm day, not like every single day on every single dungeon. If I'm doing R5, I'm not doing 500 runs a day in R5. It's just not. I mean, you could do fast. Anyway, that's besides the point. Damage increases over time with Exploit Soul. Kill someone quickly. There's no slow team because a slow safe team is kind of a dead team. It's not always a dead team, but the Lich King is going to do more damage over time. The longer the longer things go. So you want to have good enough quality runes that you can kill him quickly. There's not like, oh, my first team is going to be a safe team. It's like, no, your first team is kind of a somewhat quick speed team, kind of, just because you kind of need it to be, based on the mechanics. So the win condition is either break shield, his shield that needs to be broken with several hits, break shield, defense break, and DPS, or, which is what a lot of people are doing with the twins, or break shield and damage over time. So what kind of break shield, damage over time kind of team can we build? Actually, let's take a look at it. Let's take a look at what kind of team we can build. Okay, so taking into consideration our mechanics that we've talked about, the shield break and slow, the multi-hit units with the slow are very, very important. So let's think about who we can do. We can do the cowgirls, which I mentioned. Let's mention the cowgirls a few hundred more times, Bagel. Let's go, where is the cowgirl? She is, don't look at her runes, are terrible, but she will do. Okay, so she's the first one, easily attainable because secret dungeon unit. And she has multi-hits that speed break and slow. She also does disturb HP recovery, which is nice because he can heal. So we should be good on that one, on that front. We do still need some more multi-hits though. We can't just do one multi-hit. How are you? Actually, he's weird runes. This perfect. He's not even that great crazy runes, but he should work great as well. Now, you don't need to use the Lich. Well, instead, let's not use the Lich, right? Let's not even use him. Just wanted to showcase how bad the runes are. We can do Chilling. Chilling was a secret dungeon, not a secret dungeon, Hall of Heroes. We could do her. She's easily attainable. Everyone has her as well. We could do Theomars. I don't love Theomars here, but a lot of people do like Theomars. Theomars would work fine here. Let's go. Of course, we could do the twins as well. We could do those twinsies. Who is also all these nine-tailed foxes are really good here because they have multi-hits as well. We could do the Wind Nine-tailed Fox because it is easily... Let's talk about a healer. Let's talk about a healer. So Colleen and Fran are going to be the best healers here. Some people like to use Bella. Bella's not a multi-hit, though. Bella might be just... You might need to use Bella because Bella will take... she will be kind of like a damage target from the dark units. They like to hit Bella. So she could keep some of your other units alive. But these are the two options for healers that also have multi-hits. Now, Fran's really great because she has the multi-hit and attack power break on skill 1. And she also has immunity, and she also has a cleanse. So, and she's also light. There's just so many reasons Fran is the best healer for Necropolis B10 because multi-hits, cleanse, attack power buff, which is going to make the runs faster, and it's wonderful. If you don't have Fran, if you're maybe new, you don't have Fran, you have Colleen, that works too. I'm gonna use. I'll show you one with the Fire Elven Ranger in a second. I'm gonna use the Dark. I assume that I have runes on the Dark Elven Ranger. There's just so much stuff that needs to be runed. Man, feels Batman. So I do. Okay, good. I do have runes on him. Okay, so we're gonna use him. You can use the Fire Elven Ranger. I'm gonna show run on the other account with a Fire Elven Ranger instead of him. And then let's go for another fusion. This Fire Panda. If I have, where is Fire Panda? I do have him. He's somewhere. Fire Panda should work here just wonderfully. We can use any lich. A few of the liches were Hall of Heroes. There's the Fire Panda. Now we can go defense leader skill if we need to, and then we can go either with her, or we can go because she does also defense break. Let's go with her just because she defense breaks. Where is she? But she's not a DPS build, so this is going to be quite a long run. But let's see. I don't know how long of a run it's going to be, but it'll be at least. I wanted to bring the wind one, but she's not on the right ring dude. There's a lot of things that I don't really use because I have faster dungeon teams. So a lot of these things are just ruined with whatever from like a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, when I was using them, and I didn't really bother to change the runes on some of them because why would I if I'm not if I've moved on to faster things? I'm just saying why would I, because I have moved on to doing more speed runs than other things. So a lot of this stuff is on Violent Revenge. As you can see from the counters, a lot of it is on Violent Revenge. And multi-hits. Now, you don't need the Dark Elven Ranger for this. You can use the Fire Elven Ranger is just fine because he has multi-hits as well, and he has continuous damage also. The Fire Panda is a usable unit if you already have him fused. You do not need to fuse him for this, especially if you have other units. The Light Cowgirl is great. The Fire Panda is not necessary, though. If you're using him for R5, if you're considering doing him for R5, for fusing him for R5, then you can absolutely go for him for, you can use him in Necropolis too. So, okay, so that's one of our win conditions, is that continuous damage from the Dark Elven Ranger. We also have defense break and a little bit of DPS. It's not crazy DPS, but it's a little bit of DPS. So it's not going to be a fast run, but it is going to be... And look, we have so many multi-hits, Everything here has multi-hits. The water... She's got multi-hits on actually skill 1 and skill 2, that water magic knight. There's just so many reasons. That water magic knight is just so much better than I think people give her credit for. She was actually buffed like 2 to 3 times because people were like, look how fast we took that shield off. We can actually take her out and we can put the Fire Onigami in as well. So let's try a different team with the Fire Onigami. Again, I don't want you guys to get hung up on this Dark Elven Ranger. He's a Dark Nat 4. Most people don't have him. You can use the Fire Elven Ranger. I'll show you a team with the Fire Elven Ranger on the free to win account as well in just a second. So don't get hung up and worried about that. We can use this one. Boom, boom. We can go this instead of that, and we can go just switch a couple around to show you different team. We can even do Fran if you guys have the option or the opportunity to get a Fran, or if maybe you were around for the... Because Fran was a secret dungeon twice, so Fran was available in the game. Where's Fran? I don't even have... Apparently I don't even have Fran, because I can't even find her today. Where is she? Oh, she's... I was thinking she was a secret dungeon recently, so she would be... Anyway, so here's another team. This is more of a defense break DPS team. So we are, again, with 2 healers. Not 2 healers. We had 2 healers last time. With the... Because the Fire Panda also, he has his AoE regen, which is a heal. But now, the Fran has 2 things going for her. Number 1, she's a light unit. She'll absorb some of the... Not absorb the damage, but she will attract the enemies. So the enemies will hit her instead. And then she has a second heal. So she's got 2 different heals. So it's a little bit safer to run with Fran because of that. I should have taken out this Dark Elven Ranger and stick something else in, but it's fine. You can also use Feng Yan if you have him. You don't need to use Feng Yan, but he works as well. There's just a lot of different units that work. It's just about multi-hits, speed breaks. Take a look at this. We have a few different units that speed break in here too. We have... Fran does not speed break, the Light Fairy Queen. Rak does not speed break either, but the other 3 units all speed break. So this should be a slightly faster run. I would say maybe 145-ish. We'll see. But I would assume it would be like 145 around there. Or guesstimate, right? So we're doing defense breaks and DPS that way. That's our win condition, is the defense breaks and DPS. And we have 4 different... They're not even ruined that well, but we have 4 different DPS units. 133. Even better. Even better. So we can do that. And then I'll show you guys another team. Now this next team is, let's say we just want to go as much DPS as possible. YOLO YOLO. This is more of an end game team. We're going to use Lucian. We're going to use one of these Lucians. One of the nice things about the speed Lucian compared to, and I see some people even rune do vampire Lucians here for Necropolis, but you can do even Lucian, because this one doesn't do too much. He does okay damage, but he's not a fat juicy Lucian, right? So he's kind of traded off some of his attack power for his speed, so that he also doesn't die. We also want some shield on here too. So I'll show you, this is a no heal team, but you might want to stick in the, I guess they're all in storage. Not because I don't use them, just because I can't keep everything out all the time. But you might want to use Fran if things are dying. If you're just end game, or you're considering, this is not an early game team. Again, this is not an early game team, but one of the things to keep Lucian alive, to keep your DPS units alive late game, is preferably 2 sets of shield. I think I'm running the team that I'm going to show you with 1 set of shield, but actually I'm not going to run this one. I think I'm... This girl? Yes. Attack or damage attack. This girl, and then the 2 water units, I believe, is what I have been doing for this. Also, I seem to have lost one. Technical difficulties, please stand by. There we go. Okay, so this team should be... I think this is the one that I was using. But this team has 1 set of shield, 2 sets of shield. Again, not a beginner team. This is just when you're like end game. This is something to work towards when you eventually get this. It does not need to be these specific twins. It's just the fact that these twins will absolutely crap out damage like no tomorrow, and they all do. With all the different ones attacking together, everything is multi-hits, 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 multi-hits. So it's a little Watch, we got lucky. He could have used his skill too, actually. I don't know why he didn't, because we would have actually failed the run there. But the shield will stop Lucian from taking so much damage from the reflect damage with these dark golems. So that's one of the reasons for the shield, actually. Actually, that's the main reason for the shield, is the dark golems will make DPS units kill themselves if you don't have a heal. 2 sets of shield, though, is optimal. So this is kind of the end game thing to aspire to. You can get this down as quickly as like somewhere in the 30s of seconds. Some people have claimed that they got it down faster than that, but it's so far just been, I think for the most part, just been not legitimate. So, anyway, so we got, that is 113, is actually, could be faster, should be faster. We could redo our runes that way, but that's kind of thing to eventually aspire to. Now let's take a look at the free-to-play, free-to-win version. Okay, so we're back here on the free-to-play account. By the way, we've been switching back and forth. Every time you see the 2 and 3 star monsters, we're switching back and forth between this free-to-play account and my main. Again, let's take a look at the mechanics of here, just to give a recap, and we'll see what we've chosen for our free-to-play units. Now, the double cowgirls is really nice. I did have to go, we'll just continue. We'll just start off the run here. I did have to go double healers. It's not the fastest team, but our damage is not coming from defense breaks and DPS. Our damage is coming from 2 of these units doing so much continuous damage. So the Water Cowgirl does a bunch of continuous damage. Excuse me. And the Fire Elven Ranger does a bunch of continuous damage. And this is all just 2 and 3 star, well, all 3 star units. Actually, no, because Colleen is a 2 star. I was correct the first time. All just 2 and 3 star units doing Necropolis. I think one of them has a shield too. Actually, I think Fran has, not by intention, a shield, because we have 2 we don't have as much DPS here. We really don't have any DPS here, so we don't need a shield. Like for the same reason that that we had in the other one, that we were just getting so much reflect damage. But it just happens to be that Fran has a shield on her. Fran is actually better with Revenge, but we probably just had the better stats with the shield set than we did on Revenge. So, we will see. There's a lot of heals. And, again, they're going to be hitting Fran a lot. So we have attack breaks is really nice against Grego, too, because he's going to do a lot of damage, especially if he hits defense breaks and then hits on top of that again. But look, see, this is the win condition is... We are doing kind of a little bit of a... damage on top of the defense breaks, but we're doing so much continuous damage that that's really our win condition we're kind of going for here. So if we don't do enough damage with the defense break and the damage, the dots will finish things off. So yeah, well, and we'll go through the and look at the skills on these units again as well. So this is an easy to obtain free to play team. You can actually use the other cowgirls here as well, but if you use the other cowgirls instead of the water cowgirl, you miss out on one of those win conditions of, see, very important to slow there. You miss out on one of the win conditions, which is the continuous damage. So even though the water cowgirl apparently doesn't want to do the continuous damage today, but, or you could even run the double Adrian, double fire Elven Ranger, which is another good, easily attainable free-to-play option for a beginner team. Because it's not too difficult to get him and skill him up. He's got his brothers, the water one and the wind one are both 3 stars as well. Some of the 3 stars are more difficult to skill up if they have 4-star counterparts, but he has 3-star counterparts, so you should get a decent amount of Adrians over the course of playing. Adrians and skill ups for Adrian. That's the Fire Elven Ranger, by the way. That's his name, is Adrian. Good old Adrian. I don't know why he's got an Italian name, but... Is Adrian an Italian name? I don't even know. Anyway, another nice slow there. We got a defense break, and we got, what else? And that should finish him. So how long is this, like 3 minutes? Yeah. But I needed to use 2 healers here, just because it was safer. So 3 minutes, 18 seconds. Not the fastest team, of course, but it gets the job done for being 2 and 3 star units. So we'll take a look at all the totally horrible runes. Prepare yourself. Prepare yourself. Okay, so this is attack, crit damage, accuracy. 51, even 51%, not even skilled up. Look at these skill ups, is Garbo. And this is just, oh, there's a set of shield on her too. Okay, so good crit rate, good crit damage. The speed not as important. The rapid fire being skilled up would definitely make a difference to the runtime. And then what is she on? She's on just garbage. She doesn't really need to be. Why is the accuracy so high higher than the other one? Okay, interesting. Because that's kind of weird. Ultimately, she would do the most damage on. She doesn't really have high attack power though. You could run her attack or damage HP. You could run her. That's probably what I would suggest early game is attack or damage HP, violent revenge. Or attack or damage attack, violent revenge is great too. But I just feel like her being a light unit, she might get hit, and then you might encounter a lot of times where she dies, often being attack or damage attack with not a lot of HP. The runes on her are just kind of weird though. I don't know why there's these runes specifically, probably because I ruined her like however long ago. Speed HP. You can go speed attack HP on her because she does have 2 heals that are based on attack power. So speed attack HP is just fine. Just make sure she doesn't go too squishy. And she should be on revenge, would be optimal for her. Revenge would be optimal on her as well. Violent revenge. Speed defense HP. She can be speed HP. She doesn't have a lot of defense to begin with though. Speed HP is better for her optimally. Violent revenge. And then this guy is best for. This is not even skilled up. Oh, maybe that's on purpose. I think this was on purpose that I didn't skill this up, Path to the Forest, because I want him to use Arrow Storm as much as possible. So I think that is specifically might have been done on purpose. But you can just make him. This is why is this that? Attack or damage attack would be. I mean, he doesn't even need to be attack or damage attack because his damage is coming from dots. But attack or damage attack would help him do damage additionally to the dots. Or attack or damage HP would be nice as well. But I mean, he could kind of be a little bit of weird anything. I don't know, these runes are just not good. Also, you want accuracy on him as well. Because we have this. Disturb HP recovery and continuous. Do they not speed break? I thought they speed broke actually. Maybe that's just a few can speed break. I don't know. Because I think I said the Dark Elven Ranger speed broke before. Does he not do that? But anyway, weird runes. Not great runes. Not optimal runes. Not the runes the way they should be. But because the other one works a little bit differently. Yeah, he does decrease the enemy's attack speed. Okay, so I wasn't going crazy. He does decrease the enemy's attack speed. So anyway, that's it for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully it helped some people. I just wanted to talk about the mechanics of the dungeons, etc., etc. Show you guys some examples of both beginners teams, 2 and 3 star monster teams, easy to obtain beginner teams, teams moving forward, and then like end game teams of how you would eventually want things to be done. Half of them weren't even in order, but hopefully that didn't confuse anyone, but it probably did. So let's take a look again at, this is basically just to wrap it up, how to speed up the teams. We already basically covered this, but the fundamentals of speeding up dungeon teams are start removing support units and replacing supports slowly, a little bit at a time, with either support DPS or full DPS. Support DPS examples could be like Hraesveld, like we saw in Giants B10. Hraesveld. We saw, who else did we see for support DPS? Lapis is another great option for support DPS because she can do a lot of damage, but she also has things that reduce the enemy's attack gauge. Spectra is another one, great support DPS. And units that you would remove to put those DPS options in, or support DPS options in, are like Veramos. You'd remove Veramos because he doesn't do a ton of damage, and you can put maybe Lapis or Spectra because it does more damage. Also, upgrading the rune quality is a big difference to make your and changing the runes. Like for example, we talked about how Lapis can be runed more tanky if you need if she's dying too fast, right? You don't really want to rune Lapis tanky, but you could rune her even hybrid, like speed crit damage HP, attack crit damage HP, something like that. I say attack crit damage HP, but I feel like if people do that, they're gonna have no speed on her, and she's kind of important to have speed on. But it's really about focus less on like this unit should be ruined this way and try to get the proper stats on it. Support DPS should be faster than full DPS because support things are bringing support mechanics, attack buffs, defense breaks, and should move before the just flat out DPS units. So to make sure that those DPS units attack when they have the attack buffs and the defense breaks. So anyway, but upgrading the rune quality is a big thing, and upgrading the towers can help as well. At least, you don't have to max everything, but at least a few upgrades will make a difference between failing runs and successful runs. So yeah. So like I said, start removing support units like Megan. Is what Megan, Shannon, Veramos, replacing those with DPS or at least support DPS things. So anyway, guys, I think I've talked too much. Hopefully this helps. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. This probably helped. Well, I know this helped no one late game, but hopefully this helps at least some people in early game or early transitioning to mid game, possibly. I don't know. Anyway, that's it for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I will see you. I'm sorry for talking too much, and I will see you as always in the next one.